Alright, so welcome to this Capture One Pro 7 retouching tutorial. As you've seen, I've just launched my Capture One Pro catalog, and as you can see, the basic interface is really quite different from what you would see within Lightroom. But to me, that's one of its strengths. The interface is entirely customizable, which is something that you couldn't do within Lightroom, and something that I really hated. I hated going back and forth between the different modules, the book module, the capture well, there isn't really a capture module, the library module, the develop module. That really to me was not working as well. As you can see here, I've got my folders on the left, I've got my filtering options on the right, on the left down side, and I've got my browser on the downside. Now, Capture One comes with these great predefined workspaces. They've got one for a tethered capture, which is fantastic. They've got a fantastic setup for dual monitors, where you'll have your browser on your second monitor and your viewer on the left. But I made my entirely own customized viewing experience. And this workspace reflects my workflow, which means that I'm going to start with the editing and selection of the good photos. Then I'm going to do everything that has to do with basic exposure. I like to have a black and white tab on this because it allows me to quickly preview what an image would look like in black and white. I often do this because a lot of my work is done in black and white, as you'll see if you take a look at my work. But I also added the spot removal tool to this basic adjustments panel, because spot correction is something I'll do a lot within this module. Now after that, we've got the color correction tab. This little tool right here, the color editor, to me really is one of the chief reasons to switch over to Capture One Pro. You are able to do extensive color correction within your raw processor, which is something you really couldn't do in Lightroom. Lightroom has not the same quality of color correction tools, but this tool right here, as I'll show you in this portrait retouching, is amazingly powerful. It allows you to do a ton of different things. After that, we've got the local adjustments tab. You have your navigator, which is basically the same as in Lightroom. Then you've got your adjustment layers. Your layers work just like in Photoshop. They're a little bit simplified version of it. You don't have smart objects, you don't have extensive layering capabilities in terms of detailing, but you can use up to 10 layers in version 7 of Capture One, which really is amazing. It allows me to stay within my raw processor a lot longer. I have to go to Photoshop a lot less since I've started retouching in Capture One. Well, not really retouching, but editing basic things. And the layers panel to me is another big selling point towards Capture One instead of Lightroom. I know you can do de facto layers within Lightroom, but it's really not the same thing. Now up here you've got your basic tools. These are accessed either by clicking on a button or the keyboard shortcuts, which are V, O, and so on. Alright, so now we are going to correct the color within our image. As you can see, there's a lot wrong. It's completely oversaturated. The colors are kind of burnt in. The white balance is off. It's way too warm. This is because I was using the ambient lights in the room were turned on. They were switched on, and ambient lights have a very warm color temperature because in everything else in the photograph, a warm color temperature is agreeable. But in this thing, it looks like she rolled around in Cheeto dust. So we're going to correct that. We're going to start with the white balance. The white balance tool works like any other retouching tool or a raw processing software. And it allows you to just slide the color temperature to the left or right. I'm going to degrade it. I think I'm going to go to something like 3200, something like that. You have to see, when the whites become blue, you know you've gone too much to the left. The whites have to be neutral, and I think I'm happy with this. Something around 3300. It's very subjective, but for the look of this image, I'm happy with this. Now, it might not look like a big change because you were accustomed to the older one, but if we take it back to what it was, the change is quite huge. This looks natural, and the other one, well, like I said, it was like she rolled around in Cheeto dust. Now onto the color editor, the single most powerful color correction tool within all raw processors, really. There's nothing that can compete with it. What's this going to allow us to do is to adjust a specific spectrum of colors within the image. If you click on the view selected color range, it's going to show you, by turning the image into black and white, except for the parts and the color spectrum that you selected. So as you can see on the forehead here, it's oversaturated. The magentas, the purples are way too saturated. So I'm going to click this, and as you can see, the whole image has turned black and white, except for the parts that are going to be affected by the changes we bring. So since I'm in the magenta and the purple, there's only going to be the outline of the shoulders, the cheekbones a little bit, because they're blown out, but the magenta is still present in it. And those things are going to be affected by what I change now. So I'm going to increase the lightness a lot. I think something around 8 or 10 is going to be okay. And then afterwards I'm going to adjust the saturation. Now I'm going to choose a different color spectrum, because as you can see now I'm still in the purple and the magenta. It has affected some small parts of the face, but not everything. Like in Lightroom, you have the droplet tool, but with which you can choose which colors you're going to affect, but it's not as precise. As you can see, the areas this is going to affect are really small on this image. So going to another spectrum, like I'm going to do, the droplet tool would not allow me to change all of those things. Now between the white and the reds, those are definitely going to be the areas the most affected by my changes. If I'm going to see the color range, you can see that almost all the important stuff, as a matter of fact, is going to be affected by the changes within this color spectrum. You might not have noticed, you might still think it's a color image, but it's a black and white image. It's just the fact that your whole skin is oversaturated. So starting with lightness, the lightness at 8, something like that, kind of like it. I'm now gonna, as you can see, it does change quite a bit. I'm gonna go over to the saturation. Saturation, I think I'm gonna go to minus 30 something. I really want natural skin tones. She doesn't have to look gray, but she doesn't have to look like she rolled around in Cheeto dust neither. So I'm kind of happy with this. I'm gonna increase the smoothness a bit. But overall, this skin tone really suits the purpose of the image. It's all about suiting the purpose of the image, because certain images might call for a warmer skin tone. But in this case, since she has beautiful blue eyes, I think I'm gonna keep it. I think I'm gonna keep it around these values, because to me this looks really natural. I think, I don't know what you guys think, but Capture One really did a phenomenal job at pulling out the details and saving the skin tones. Because white balance is affected. White balance can be changed in RAW when you shoot in RAW, but saving skin tones like this is the before, and we're gonna go back to the after, which is, wait a minute, and here we go. And the after, come on. And there we go. And this is the after. So to me this looks a lot more natural, and this is not retouching that could have been done within Lightroom. The color correction module just is not as powerful. If we zoom in on the details, we can see that they've regained their aspects as well. And even a droplet tool, you know, I can use it for the lips because it's a smaller area, and as you can see, it just affects the area of the lips as such. Alright, so now we're going to select the image that we're going to work on. As you can see here, I have my folders, my photos, and these are all the photos I've liked and edited, selected and flagged from this shoot. Now we're going to pick an image that I specifically underexposed heavily to really show you the raw processing power that Capture One holds. I'm gonna hide my browser, there you go. And if we analyze this image very quickly, we can see it's severely underexposed, and it's not the only thing wrong with it. The colors are heavily burnt in, it's not straight. Basically, this is an unusable image in its current state, and a lot of people would disregard this image as being, you know, it's useless, and in some ways it is. But the thing is, with Capture One Pro, the software is going to allow us to save this image, or recuperate at least a huge amount of it, because it is so powerful. I tried doing the same within Lightroom, and the results I got were far, far less superior. The image within Lightroom was, even for web use, not as usable. I wouldn't publish it as it was in Lightroom. Now we're gonna first start by straightening out the picture by picking the straighten tool. We can draw a line just like in Lightroom on any straight line within your picture, and it'll align the picture correctly with that. As you can see, I'm gonna drop it here. And as long as you're precise with it, the tool will straighten out your photo perfectly. Now, as you can see, the picture, let me present there, and there we go. The picture is okay. We're gonna go to the basic adjustments panel. Now, this panel allows you to correct exposure, contrast, brightness, and whatnot. And as you can see, seen as the image is severely underexposed and color burned, we need to fix quite a few things here. I'm first going to try the exposure. The software allows us to add up to 4 stops of exposure, but 4 stops is really a lot. If you can see it here, the picture still looks quite alright, but if your basic picture is 4 stops underexposed, you really got to work on your skills as a photographer. Now, as I said, I specifically underexposed this image for the purpose of this tutorial, to show you what the power of Capture One Pro is. It's saved because to a lot of people this image is it fits within the context of the image, you know. It's overlit, but that's the look we're going for. But the problem is, when you overexpose something by 4 stops software wise, it's gonna look good from afar, but if you zoom in on the details, they are really not gonna be good. You're going to lose detail, you're going to have hot pixels, whatnot. This little tool right here allows us to zoom into 100%, and as you can see, the eye really is damaged by the 4-stop increase of exposure that we added through the software. So this tutorial really is to show you the power of the software. It's not really about the portrait retouching in se. It's really to show you what the software is capable of in order to save a picture that has gone wrong. I'm gonna make another tutorial where the basic picture is already alright, and how you can really perfect it. Now, as you can see, we have overexposed the image by 4 stops, but that's too much for me. I think we're gonna go back to something like 2. 2 looks quite alright to me. It's still underexposed, but the exposure is not the only tool I'm gonna use to save the picture. I'm also going to increase the brightness, because the brightness is gonna fill in all those dark spots in the picture, and I think something like 25 looks quite alright. The next tool I'm going to use is the highlight and shadow recovery tool. This tool, in my impression, works a lot better at saving detail within the shadows and the highlights in the picture. I'm going to pull out detail in the shadows by increasing the slider. And I'm not sure what value is going to work for this, but I imagine something around 20 is going to be good. As you can see, I'm going to save all the details in those dark patches, and something around 25, 20 is going to be alright. I really pulled out the detail in the shadows. Now I'm not going to do the same with the highlights, because the highlights aren't blown out at the moment, and if they are slightly, doesn't really matter, because it's the look we're going for with the picture. Next thing, I'm going to put my clarity to neutral, because neutral is best when you're retouching portraits of women. For men it doesn't really matter all that much, but because you like some roughness to their skin, it adds to the texture of the skin, so that's not really a problem here. I'm always analyzing the picture and the effects that my adjustments have made to it. You always have to take a step back, and now I'm checking what it's gonna look like in black and white. As I told you, I like to do that because a lot of my images are black and white. I like to check on beforehand what's going to happen. Now we're going to do the color correction, because as you can see, the colors are heavily saturated, they're oversaturated, they're burned in, and we have to do something about that, really. Alright, so on to adjustments. I'm happy with the color correction I did, so we are going to head over to the adjustments. Now, an amazing thing in Lightroom, what I'm going to say in Capture One, is the use of layers. You can use up to 10 layers on a single image, which should be plenty, considering it's a raw processing engine and not a complete retouching program. You have to, Capture One gives you certain tools to adjust specifically certain regions of your image. As you can see down here, I'm going to zoom the image to 100% because that's the best way to do specific corrections on the skin. I'm going to use the spot removal tool. First thing you do is analyze the image. Now obviously she has near perfect skin, so I'm just going to select the spot tool. You have the option to do dust reduction as well if you've got some dust spots on your sensor, but that's not the case now. And as you can see, you have several tools that you can apply locally. These include exposure tools like contrast, brightness, saturation, but also sharpening. You can selectively adjust sharpening. We're going to start with spot removal, however. You press O and then you get this little spot removal tool, and then you just have to, nitpick a bit the areas that contain a kind of imperfection, like a zit or something, or small fault in makeup. Just press on it, and like in Lightroom, the software is going to perfectly make it disappear. Now the only thing that I am missing compared to Lightroom is the fact that you can't use the spot removal tool in a streak or in a brush way. As you can see, she's got little lines under her eyes, which is normal, but with Lightroom I could, using the spot removal tool, just get rid of them easily. And this is going to be a problem in this program. That's the only thing, adjustment-wise, that I'm sad I don't have at my disposal compared to Lightroom. Now, analyzing this image, there isn't a lot that I need to correct skin-wise. There are a few stray hairs, but once again, without the brush capability of the spot tool like in Lightroom, I'm not going to get able to get rid of those eye lines or the stray hairs. That's the only problem. But globally, I'm not seeing a lot of other things that need to be corrected. I'm checking. This is great about the spot removal tool. You have this list that contains every single spot you did, and you can easily delete them. Now I'm just going to go to the next because I don't need to delete one. But I'm just going to keep analyzing and spotting away. I'm really focusing on the small details now. But then again, this is not beauty retouching. You can't really do beauty retouching in a raw processing engine, not even Capture One. This is more like a general, portrait adjustments, I'd say. I'm going to scan the rest of the image for certain things I'd like to be gone, but I don't think there's so much. No, it seems pretty good on the rest. Yeah, I'm pretty satisfied with that. On the eyes, nothing. No, I'm good. So I'm going to select my my arrow key again, and I'm just going to analyze the image. I think I'm going to start dodging and burning. You can easily add layer by clicking the plus sign, and I'm going to call this layer dodging. Yes. And dodging and burning are two of the most useful tools you can do. Now I'm going to take my brush tool. The brush tool works similarly like in Lightroom. You select your size, hardness, opacity. If you've got a tablet, I encourage you to press to use the pen sensitivity pressure setting. It's going to allow you to brush over the areas of the image that you want to do. Now with dodging and burning, you need to set a hardness of 0% because you do not want to have visible streaks of light. The whole key to efficient dodging and burning is to augment the existing light. It's not to create artificial light, because if you are going to create artificial light, it's going to look fake as hell, and that's not something we want. You have to read the face for the natural fall of the light. See, you've got a little bit of light here on the forehead and on the side of her face. And the whole key to dodging is augmenting the existing light. As I said, it's not creating non-existent light, because it's going to look artificial, it's going to look plasticky, it's going to look awful. So a lot of people go overboard with this dodging and burning tool. The key to it is really to use it in a subtle, minimalistic way. So I'm going to use my brush. I've located the areas of the face where I need to dodge a little bit. I recommend not dodging in 100% because you're going to be focused on those details, but you got to take into account the rest of the image. If you just dodge and lighten the face and you do it too obviously, it's going to look horrible in comparison to the rest of the body. I like to do it at something like 67% because it gives you an overall view. Now, take a very, very large brush. As I said, you don't want visible lines or streaks to do that. I'm gonna turn my mask on to show it to you. You just have to press M to slightly do that. It has the ability, there we go, it has the ability to only show the mask when you're drawing, which is something I like. For the purpose of this tutorial, I'm just gonna leave it on, even when I'm not drawing. I'm gonna reduce my brush size a bit so I can cover the nose. Yeah, that looks kind of good. I think I'm gonna do that, yeah, and the side of her face a bit. Not too much, just a bit. As I say, it's about augmenting the existing light, not creating. I'm not gonna brush or dodge somewhere on her face where there is no light at all. I'm gonna take a look at the rest of the body. I'm gonna help the neckline a bit, something like that, yes. And maybe her arm a bit, yeah, like that. And as you can see, the pen pressure is something, oops, wrong line. See, it's all about reading the light on the light that is already falling on her body. I read the wrong line here because, as you can see, the lighter line is left of it, and now I was going in the dark side. So I erased the mask. Now I'm gonna redraw it. You can easily adjust the size of the brush with your bracketing keys, like in Lightroom or Photoshop. So there, that's the good line. I'm gonna go all the way down. Maybe, yeah, the side of her arm a bit. The fantastic thing about dodging and burning is it allows you to sculpt or really contour somebody's physique. As you're gonna see, always zoom out when you're dodging and burning. In this case, I want to see where I apply the mask and if it's applied evenly, just to see which areas of the image are going to be affected. Now I'm going to go to my exposure tools. I'm going to hide my mask to see what I'm doing. I'm going to hide that clipboard, and I'm going to increase the brightness ever so slightly. Why do I say ever so slightly? Because as always with dodging and burning, it's about subtlety. I tend to stay within the 5 to 10 region. As you can see, I'm at 5, and it already greatly increased the light that's falling onto her face. I'm gonna go to 8, 7 maybe, 8. That's already too much. You can see that it's fake at this point. You can see it on her jawline. You can see it, it's less obvious on her arms, but here in her eye socket, it's really apparent. Obviously, there wasn't any real light falling there, so I created light, which is something that you cannot do with dodging and burning because it's too fake. So I'm going to remove the part of that mask. This, again, is fantastic because it allows you to go back, erase, and not affect the rest of the adjustments you did. So I'm just going to put this away. I'm going to hide my mask. And as you can see now, even at 8 or 10, it looks kind of natural. It's still a bit too much for me. I think I'm gonna decrease it a bit. I'm gonna zoom in to see if I got rid of the mask completely. Yeah, it looks good. I'm gonna increase it in her eyes also a bit. She's got beautiful eyes, but it always helps to color in the iris a bit. Never whiten the white of the eyes. It makes people look like aliens, and it's awful. I think it's the first error photographers do once they learn Photoshop. So I'm gonna hide the mask, and there you see the difference is subtle, but it does open up her eyes. She's got beautiful eyes, evidently, but this really aids it, because if we take a look at 0, like this, you can see that the face was kind of bland, didn't really stand out. But now with our adjustments, it's beautiful. Now again, I am at 100% zoomed in here. Nobody's gonna look at your image at 100%. That's why it looks so obvious from this close up. But once you zoom out, you're gonna notice that the adjustments aren't all that impressive anymore, and that's what it's about. It's about the global look that your image has. If we go back to fit the image completely, you can see that it doesn't look overdone like as it did when we were zoomed in at 100%. So I'm gonna add another layer, which is gonna be my burning layer. And burning is something that has to be done with equal caution as dodging, because you're effectively darkening the image, and that can look equally as bad if you go over the top with it. I'm gonna take my brush again. I'm gonna choose yet again a large brush to avoid evident lines. And now I'm gonna paint in the naturally dark places and spots on her faces. I'm gonna follow her jawline here. I'm gonna reduce my brush size a bit. I'm gonna follow her jawline, and here, instead of dodging, I'm gonna burning it, because obviously it falls within the shadow range of her face. And as I said, this really is a great tool to shape someone's physique a little bit more. I'm also gonna burn a little bit on the neck and the chest, and this is really gonna help me into creating that contrasty look that I love. I'm gonna burn in her arm a bit, and take notion that I'm not burning anything yet. I'm just applying the mask. The effective burning comes later. Now I'm gonna draw in the good part of the arm, like I did previously. I used to dodge this, but I was wrong. I had to burn it. And this part of the arm, like so. Yeah, that seems about right. I'm gonna zoom out to see which areas I painted on. I'm gonna hide my mask, and I'm going to reduce the brightness. And once again, I like to stay within the -5 region. I'm not really gonna go over top with it, because then again it looks fake. And I think -5 is already, the perfect adjustment for this. I can go to -10 to show you how fake it looks, and now you're really seeing the fake lines on her arm, on her jawline, and on her forehead. This really, it looks awful. But then again, you might think, yeah, well, -10 is not that much, but once again, dodging and burning is all about subtlety, and I actually think I overdid it just a little bit even with the dodging, but I just want to show you what this software is capable of. This is not about making a super precise retouching. Now I'm gonna go to selective sharpening. I like to add selective sharpening to some aspects of a photograph, and most notably eyes. I think eyes thrive when you over sharpen them a bit. I tend not to over sharpen the entire image, but now I'm just gonna over sharpen some features of her face, and these would be the eyes, the eyebrows, and the eyelashes a bit. As you can see, she's got some kind of gold dusty makeup on her eyelid, but it's not really seen as the image was completely underexposed and burnt in color-wise. They're not really coming out as they should. So I'm going to sharpen the eyes, and this amount of sharpening, I'm at 600 right now, is going to cause some pixelation and some coarseness in the texture. But as you can see, it's gonna make the yellow really pop out, and the eyelashes as well. And I really like this effect. I'm never gonna apply it to something else than the eyebrows, eyelashes, and eyes, but to these elements, it really works. Now, I'm not happy with the eyelashes, because as you can see, since I'm in the dark region of the face, the sharpening doesn't bode well for the eyelashes. So I'm gonna remove that. It's always about, seeing what works and what doesn't. It's about throwing a lot against the wall and see what sticks. Now I'm very content with this eye, because this really makes the gold makeup shine. And yeah, this looks pretty good to me. It might, once again, you might think, oh well, it looks a bit fake, but don't forget you're zoomed in at 100%. It works perfectly for things that shine, like that ring. Those are things that thrive under these sharpening conditions. And now going back to the whole view, I think I'm pretty happy with. As I said, I still think I dodged and burned a bit too much on the arms. You can see you can still see the line there, but it's about the power of the software. It's not really about the perfectness of this picture, because I would never use a picture that is intentionally underexposed by at least 2 stops. This is just really for the retouching purposes. Now, as with any layers, you can deselect them and select them to see what affects your image. And now if you remove the burning and the dodging, you can see that this is the place where we started. And it was okay, but you know, dodging and burning really allows you to set an image apart. And as I said, it's a bit too much, but it's not about that at the moment. It's about showing you what the capabilities of the software are. Generally, I'm quite content with this image actually. I think we did a hell of a job saving it, because if you can see how bad the original image is, it's really quite abysmal. So, alright, well now I'm gonna go and apply global adjustments. I haven't applied any global sharpening yet, so I'm gonna do that now. I'm gonna go to the Details tab, and the first thing you see is your focus window, just like in Lightroom or Photoshop. You can focus on a specific part of the image to see what your adjustments are doing at a various number of zooming in percentages. I'm at 100 here because even 100 is a bit too much, because as I said, very few, if none, are gonna look at your images at 100%. So I'm gonna analyze which part of the image is important. Obviously it's the eyes. And I've already applied a substantiated amount of sharpening. I was at 600, I believe. So I'm not going to overdo it here. I don't really understand what they base their numbers on in sharpening-wise in Capture One Pro, because it went from 0 to 100, I believe, in Lightroom, and here it's to 800 or something. I don't really understand why, but I'm not going to apply too much. I'm looking at the skin specifically. And I think I'm gonna go with 250, because 250 is gonna give me just the right amount of sharpening without creating artifacts and whatnot. I'm not gonna apply any noise reduction because I was at ISO 200 and I don't think it's gonna help much. I'm not seeing a lot of noise, and the noise that I am seeing is not really distracting. Alright, so I'm quite content with the retouching that we've done. I mean, this as a final image, I kinda like it. As I said, I think I went a little bit overboard here on the dodging and burning, but it was just to show you what the software can do, because no retouching is complete unless you compare it with the original. And as we can see, if we select the original, I mean, we started from this, and this is, to me, unless it's the look you're going for, catastrophic. This is a non-usable file in real life. I would never start retouching a file for a client that was in this condition. If you can't expose a photo properly, you need to learn how to do that, because you can't rely, although the software allowed us to save it partially, you can't rely on software to save every photo you make. So you do need to learned how to do that properly. But I mean, given the circumstances, the retouching that we did without ever going into Photoshop, because that's the important aspect of it. You could easily have done it in Photoshop, but the problem is Capture One doesn't deal with PSD files. So you have to make a TIFF file, or those are rather large files. If you have to do it for a lot of files, it's going to take additional disk space and whatnot. And the whole point of this video was showing what you could do without ever going into Photoshop. And I think when you compare the two images, the before and the after, the software did quite a phenomenal job. The combination of exposure recovery, highlight and shadow recovery, the color editing, because as you can see on the right hand side, the color was barely usable, but we still managed to salvage it into something rather quite usable. I'm really pleased with the results actually. The software really has done an amazing job, I think. Well, that was it. I hope you guys enjoyed this. I hope it was informative, and I hope that you might want to switch to Capture One Pro. It doesn't really matter which software you use as long as it's best for what you need. But I made the switch from Lightroom and I'm never going back, that's for sure. If you guys want, there's a 60-day trial run available for the software on PhaseOne's website. And well, you've got nothing to lose.